What is happening out there, rotoscouts baseball fans? Good morning, gang. Welcome to a Thursday show, a little bit early in the day, 11:30, 3, a couple minutes late getting started. Had to get Joker inside. It's a whole operation over here. Dylan comes with instructions. I got to wrangle Joker outside so that Dylan will eat his food and not be jealous of Joker's food. It's a whole crazy operation. Dylan didn't want to eat earlier. We just finally got through that mess. So I had to get Joker back inside before the show started. But welcome. Not sure how big a crowd we're going to have for an early one. Little 5-game slate with some small prize pools around the industry. I know Gunn's live right now as well, so I'm sure some people are over there watching him. But we'll plow our way through it. Going to try and get us through in just a quick hour, if that. And I got a lineup to build after that. Got to make sure that I actually put it in, unlike my Masters entry, which I'm kind of pissed off about. I had just nothing. It didn't cost me anything because I had a freebie from FanDuel, and then I had they have a free play contest up for like $5,000 in just bonus cash. So I was like, I'll throw a Masters lineup in there. And like 4 different times last night, I pulled it up. I was like, I got to get this thing set up. I got to read somebody's article about golf, see what's going on. And 4 different times, I was like, I'll get to it later. And I closed it down, and I ended up falling asleep. Woke up at like 7 o'clock this morning, and it was locked. I was like, whoops. Little chance at free money lost, but no hit to the bankroll, fortunately. Handful of people walking in the door. Good morning, everybody. So we got an interesting little 5-gamer to talk about. We've got a Coors Field game. Same slate on both sides for a change, which is fortunate. Hopefully we had some good results last night. A lot of things we talked about came through. The Junior Caminero got real popular, did not hit his home run, didn't actually have a very good game. Jose Caballero ended up coming up with the big knock after I said he was only good for stolen bases. Go figure, that's baseball. But had some definitely fill-ins. Another day for me where it was like you hit these 3 guys, but you put them together with the wrong 3 guys. Then you had those other 3 guys you talked about in that other lineup with 3 other wrong guys. If you put those 2 things together, would have been a good day. But what can you do? That's baseball. So we'll tackle this one. We've got projections are up on the site. Home run picks, top stacks rankings, all the usual content live at the site for the last, it's been up for about a half hour now, 45 minutes now. But let's dive on in. It's a kind of ugly pitching board, as you can see right there. Bailey Ober standing tall at the top of it, but a couple shaky outings, couple short outings for Bailey to start the season, going up against a low strikeout, high-quality Kansas City team. Don't love that. Jose Soriano going up against Tampa Bay in that hitter-friendly park with Tampa flashing a little bit of power, but he's looking, like he's got some improved stuff to work with. 93, 88. I think I prefer him to Ober just for the strikeout chase. Get a little bit more K upside out of that Tampa lineup. Then we get Gavin Williams, who is dynamite in spring, shaky to start, going up against a super gettable White Sox team. Zach Littell on the other side of the Angels game at a really high price. Chris Bassett at a ludicrous price. And then ugly from there. So there's not a lot to work with pitching. I don't think we're going to be comfortable with any pitching combinations, any pitching choices. This is not a comfort-built slate. But I think there's nice angles that we can succeed with. We'll jump back to the pitching board in just a second. That's what we're dealing with. So, Coors Field, obviously the meat of the thing. 10-run total. The Brewers coming in again over 5 runs. Had a nice showing last night. I think Jackson Churio hit a home run, if I remember. Had a decently big day. 4.95 implied total on the Rockies side of that one, though. They're showing a little bit of power upside. They're right at essentially a 5-run total. So people tend to go to the visitors a lot more than they tend to go to the actual Rockies, with some interesting bats in that lineup, some actual power, some home run hitters in that lineup. They're going to be interesting here and there. So today's a day we'll definitely consider them. Top of the board, Angels, Rays. I think we're getting a similar kind of a look where we can pick off some Rays power. We've got Brandon Lau back in the lineup. Most of the lineup's confirmed already, by the way. So Brandon Lau showing a little bit of home run upside. Junior Caminero showing his typical upside. And then the mix and match pieces that the Rays usually present. For the Angels, a little bit more straightforward around like the key top few guys, plus Joe Adell from down lineup. But you've got Kyron Paris looking like the best player in baseball right now. He's not, but he's had a great start to his year. Ripped another 2 homers last night. White Sox and the Guardians. So the White Sox really weak under a 3-run total, 2.78 implied total. That's the one game that has a little bit of weather. It just seems like it's a rainy kind of day in Cleveland, but Roth seems to think we're perfectly fine. He's got it half green, yellow-green, I think so. Seems perfectly fine out there, but maybe not the best conditions. There's also no Luis Robert in the lineup for the White Sox today. Seems like a pushover spot for Gavin Williams, but we need to see him actually harness that stuff and make it work. I do think he's an interesting pitching option. The Guardians flashing a bunch of power. I made Joe Kinsey Noel the home run pick of the day going up against Jonathan Cannon because why not? Would have been too obvious to go to Jose Ramirez. I almost made it Kyle Mansardo. He's the pick from the Guardians, but the overall I went with Big Christmas just because I like that guy. Twins, Royals, 4-2-1, 4-3-8 implied total. Usable pieces all over the place in that game. We'll definitely talk that one through. Brewers and the Rockies I mentioned already. And then rounding things off with 9 runs between the Blue Jays and the Red Sox. That's another spot that could kind of go off. 4-4-8 implied total on the Blue Jays side. 4.62 on the Red Sox side. Tristan Casas didn't come through for us yesterday at that great price, but I think we'll get him again cheap today. Steven Leibowitz, what's going on, buddy? Good morning. Actually, in the morning. Good morning. Usually I'm saying good morning. It's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I did that walking out my front door the other day, and the lady gave me a really weird look. I almost bumped into this little old lady who was walking, not paying attention to where my gate opened. And so, oh, excuse me. Good morning. And I realized it was like 4. She was like, what? Anyway. So, pitching-wise, I don't think I need to tell you, we're probably not going Ryan Feltner, even for the 6,000 at Coors Field with 5+ showing against a pretty decent Brewers lineup. On the other side of that one, the Brewers just acquired Quinn Priester, and he's dropping right into the rotation. If we've been paying attention, that Brewers rotation has been really wonky so far as like who they've been throwing up on the mound. Priester's still just 24. He's a pitching prospect who was a little bit more noteworthy a couple of years ago. But it's at least an interesting spot for him to land. I think we're going to get some looks at him. He has had a couple cups of coffee at the major league level with pretty poor results. But the minor league numbers are strong. The strikeout stuff is real. I just don't know if we want to start him out in Coors Field. Between the two, I do think, given that he's facing the Rockies, that there are strikeouts, that he is a strikeout-oriented pitcher historically through the minors, maybe if you need to dabble with a cheap pitcher from Coors Field, he'd be the guy, but I have no idea what the innings are really going to look like. He made a minor league start. He's pitched through the spring, so he should be relatively stretched out. But they might just be content with like, all right, you gave us 4 good innings. Let's flop over to some of our multi-inning relievers and see if we can get through this thing at Coors Field. Might not want to overexpose him. We'll see. On top of all of that, he just hasn't been good in the majors, and it's Coors Field. Jonathan Cannon is a pretty hard no for me. We'll give him a look. We'll talk it through, but not a big fan. And then Walker Buehler, I just don't think we're getting any kind of advanced pitch count against a decent Toronto team that's not super high strikeout. Doesn't seem like a great spot for Walker Buehler either. Maybe if he stays healthy, gets stretched out more, and is pitching well into the summer when things warm up, maybe we'll take some looks. Hopefully he'll still be around these prices if that's the case. But it really feels pretty thin on all of those guys. And again, these guys, it's just a lot of, if I told you any one of those guys was on the board, that's a group of essentially the same kind of pitchers, with apologies probably to Gavin Williams with the most upside for talent, maybe. There's a lot of same through there, a lot of mediocrity through there. Since there's a truck idling like on the other side of my office room here, but I think it's just outside. Something really loud. I think it's a truck. Anyway. So, Jose Soriano, 8,800, 9,300, projects out really well. We've made 2 starts. He's got a 3.65 ERA with a 2.78 xFIP, so pitching a little bit better under the surface, which Stuff Plus kind of bears out. Really likes the look of the arsenal. 30% strikeouts over his first 12 and a third innings. Obviously, that's a very small sample size, but it was 5 strikeouts in the first game, and he went 7 against the White Sox. 2-hitter, no runs. Very, very solid outing. And then against the Guardians, we think we talked about him that day just for looking at some strikeout upside that is kind of, still probably sneaky for the Guardians. Came up with 9 Ks in that game. He did walk 3. He gave up 2 home runs. He allowed 5 earned on 5 hits to 23 hitters over 5 and a third. If I remember, he was rolling okay and then just hit some trouble. But don't quote me on that. I no promises that that's actually how that unfolded. We could pull the box score on a longer show, but we're trying to get through this one. I like the upside for strikeouts here. There are plenty of strikeouts to be had in this Rays lineup. 21-1 so far this year. We're right around the average in a small sample, but we've got some meat right there. We'll skip over that big 66. But if you want to consider like that group of hitters, that's a 25% strikeout rate right there. So that's giving him 1 in 4 on top of his already 30%. If you look back last year, just 20.7%, 9.6% walks over 113 innings, 20 starts, 3.42 ERA, a 3.82 xFIP, 10.1% swinging strike rate. With more improvement as a full-time starter and developing that arsenal out, there he was a buzzy guy this spring as far as like really picking up the strikeout stuff. So I kind of like the looks at 88.93. I think I will play him. Throwing one dart in this tournament on FanDuel just because I missed lock for the one contest, so I threw one lineup in just to have something. But I'm strongly considering using Jose Soriano in that lineup. On the other side of that game, though, you can see there is offensive upside for the Rays. They're pulling a 4.21 implied total, which is definitely not nothing. You are not safe with Jose Soriano, but I do think he's got one of the better strikeout upside spots on the slate. Two very threatening hitters right here. For power upside, Brandon Lau has 3 home runs already on the season. He is going to be a target bat for us all season long, especially once things warm up down there. 16.7% barrels, 56.7% hard hits. It's just what Brandon Lau does. All he needs is health, and he's a 30 home run type second baseman. He is very, very good as a power bat. Strikes out a lot, doesn't draw a ton of walks. He's got his flaws. But for what we're looking for, that's your first click if you're going Rays. 4,800, 3,100, pretty decent price, better priced on FanDuel. Junior Caminero, again, let us down yesterday. He's got a home run on the board for this season. Had a decent 177 plate appearances last year with 6 home runs on the board. Created runs 5% better than average. Monster spring, one of the top prospects in the game. You just roll with him if you're going to the Rays. 43.27. For what that bat will be is great. For what it is right now is fine. There's nothing wrong with paying those prices for his upside. Bolting Yandy Diaz from the one spot on top of those two guys ahead of them creates your ideal 3-man from this team. Just go 1, 2, 3. It's very, very straightforward. But Yandy is great at getting on base typically. Just ignore these 49 plate appearances with a 204 on base, a 40 WRC plus. That is very much not what Yandy Diaz is all about. He's got a home run on the board. He's got a stolen base. He'll hit some homers. But what we're really looking for is his correlated scoring for the price. And honestly, with the power upside that you pop into second base, third base, you don't really sweat the slightly lessen. He's not a monster home run hitter. You don't really sweat that you're taking that down a little at first because you're picking it back up and then some at second base compared to most of the second basemen. So really strong 3-man off the top. Only costs you $4,300 a piece on DraftKings. I would obviously stretch it to 4 on FanDuel as a primary, but as a 3-man secondary, that's $2,800 a man. And again, Jose Soriano, even with improvements, can definitely get got. He's given up a few home runs already, or 2 home runs in that last game. Last season, it was just a 1.71% home run rate. The year before, 2.16. Has been good at keeping the ball down in history. So that's the one thing that could come through and impact some of the home run upside. But I think this is one of those situations where stretched out as a full-time starter, that's probably the truth somewhat in the middle. Zach Littell, also interesting. FanDuel priced him way up for this slate. 9,600 is kind of obnoxious. 4.15 ERA, but a 3.66 xFIP underneath it over his 13 innings in his 2 starts. Struck out 20%, walked 4% in the teeny tiny sample. Last year, a little bit more fair of a sample. 3.63 ERA with a respectable enough 4.01 xFIP. The xFIP obviously a half a run higher than the ERA is not great. This is your more realistic number. I expect him to be around a 4-run type pitcher. 21.5% strikeouts, 4.7% walks, 11.1% swinging, but just a 26.8% CSW. So we're not getting a lot of... Hi, can you go lie down, please? Not an ideal strike thrower, but he can induce the swinging strike. Not great at keeping guys off base. Medium power upside against with a lot of barrels on a fly ball trajectory, 39% hard hits, 3.35% home run rate that easily could have been over 4, but also probably pretty easily could have been under 3. The tiebreaker for me, Stuff Plus, doesn't really like the arsenal. 81, that is way below. Again, Stuff Plus works on 100 is the average. So if you're at 81, you're pretty far below average. In his first 2 starts, 89, not great. Little uptick from last year. But he is effective with that arsenal. Could he get through the Angels with that arsenal? Absolutely. I think the projections are basically exactly where they ought to be. I just question him at this FanDuel price. It's really the only thing I struggle with. DraftKings 85, fire away. I think he's perfectly fine on this slate with this group of pitchers. He is no worse than any of the other top-end pitchers. He's no worse than a Jose Soriano for 300 more. Decent enough matchup with plenty of strikeouts on board for him. He's got to fade a little power. He's got to fade an aging superstar. He's got to fade a monster home run hitter. 3 home runs apiece for Mike Trout, Jorge Soler. 5 home runs for Logan O'Hoppe to start the season. Pretty good start from a guy who hit 20 plus last year. Taylor Ward with his ability to get on base, hit for power. Same thing with Luis Rengifo with his ability to get on base and exploit his speed a little bit from the 2 spot and just have good table setting ahead of Trout, Soler, O'Hoppe is dynamite. Nolan Shanuel further down the lineup as a lefty bat for 3,700, 2,800. Decent ability to get on. Maybe he gets on, resets the table for the Kyron Paris, Joe Adell power duo that follows him. Kyron Paris, as mentioned, 5 home runs on the board, 4 stolen bases, 355 WRC plus. He's 255% better than average grading runs right now. I think that holds up all season long. 700 plate appearances. These are going to be his numbers by the end of the year, and he's just the best player that you had never heard of coming into this year. No, I don't think any of that. This is going to come way, way down very quickly. Over 59 plate appearances last year, he wasn't anything to speak of. Over 46 the year before that, wasn't anything to speak of. Is it a kid finally clicking at the major league level? Potentially, but I don't want to get too excited about a good 2 weeks. But 3,000 in the lineup, 2,900 in the lineup. There's clear upside there. He is a decently regarded kid, so I definitely am a buyer if I'm stacking Angels, but I'm not going out of my way to grab him, and I think he's going to get a little bit popular given that he's put up like the best fantasy line over the first 2 weeks. Adell, I think, is again a guy who's not going to be popular for that exact same or the opposite side of that coin. 185, 267, 222 to start the season, a .037 ISO, no home runs, decent contact. I've talked about the elite nature of the swing speed and the fast swing rate. 10.5% barrels and 52.6% hard hits in his very limited sample of batted ball events over 30 plate appearances is not nothing. That is exactly what we want to see from him. We just need him to straighten it out, make more frequent contact, hit the ball that way, not right at somebody, etc. But there's upside on any given slate for Joe Adell against a gettable righty like Zach Littell who allows contact even with a little bit of swinging strike upside. Joe Adell's a free swinger. Littell might get him 3 times with the K. But Adell, you only really need him to come through once. And then Tim Anderson's at the bottom of the lineup and wearing an Angels uniform. Further down the Rays lineup, I'm kind of bouncing around, apologies. I was starting here and then I skipped back up to there. It's too early. My brain's not fully caffeinated yet. This is only my start of my second small cup of coffee. So further down the Rays, Christopher Morel, I've talked about him as well in that fast swing rate and swing speed conversation. Him are both in that group that is also populated by Shohei Ohtani, Jordan Alvarez, Julio Rodriguez, and a couple other elite hitters, Gunnar Henderson. So keep an eye on Chris Morel. We haven't gotten much, but at least he's at 280, 379, 360 to start the year. He's created runs in a positive sense, so he hasn't been a detriment to put in your DFS lineups, but he hasn't given us what we're looking for, which is that big knock. 889 in the home run model go alongside Caminero, Brandon Lau, and Yandy Diaz. He's probably my 4th man in on FanDuel. He's probably, especially with that positional flex for a cheap price, he's probably still my 4th man in at just outfield on DraftKings. And then Aranda, Cameron Misner, Caballero, the big home run hitter from yesterday. You can pick your poison the rest of the way down the lineup. Ben Rortvedt is not much of a hitter. He is the dead min, but going to the dead min price just because it's there at catcher just to fill the spot, I'd at least like to get a little bit better of a bat and a guy maybe that was hitting a little further up the lineup. Going to the 9 spot is not totally ideal, but it does fill it. It's the Apple Box pick, so you can use it. Jake Magnum talked about a bunch of times, 5 stolen bases on the board, but a quad A player without a lot of talent. Cameron Misner, 2,900, 2,600 with a home run, a pretty hot start for him as well. This is a very, very playable Rays lineup. They're not at all expensive. You roster the full 9 man for a $2,600 average. But taking like the good players, like that 4-man that I just called out before, right? With that positional flex on Morel, $2,700 a piece on FanDuel. We'll go for the 4-man, and I don't really want. We'll throw Roy Fed into it. What the hell? Make it as cheap as possible. $3,780 a man on DraftKings, so essentially 38. So you're getting everybody at Chris Morel's price. Not bad. Soriano, Rays bats, Angels, Littell. 4 corners for sure. Everything pretty close. Not a lot of separation in terms of what I expect or how I feel about those different picks. White Sox, Guardians. White Sox again, 2.78 implied runs. That is not good. Anytime you see under 3, that looks like an absolute monster. Just saw Dennis's comment. Over under that this show finishes before the afternoon slate locks the 310 slate. We're going to get through. Don't worry. I'm shooting for 12:30. John Byron is here. Brian is here. Good morning. Good to see everybody. 21 people out there. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe. We'll pick up speed, Den, because we can skip over guys like Jonathan Cannon, at least to some degree. Not much of a pitcher there, and Guardians bats are definitely favorable here, and we'll be able to skip over the Coors Field pitchers as well. Canathan. I'm calling him Canathan. Canathan. 3 2/3 innings, 3 earned runs in his most recent start. That was against the Tigers. 3 strikeouts, 3 walks, gave up a homer. Not great. 5 innings in his first outing. That was against the Angels. 4 hits, no runs, 3 walks, 5 Ks. That's your upside start from Jonathan Cannon. He is not that good a pitcher. There's a reason he's on the White Sox. Last year, 124 and a third, 4.49 ERA with a 4.62 xFIP, a 1.33 WHIP, which is just equals way too many chances, especially for a guy who allows plenty of fly balls, allows plenty of home runs, does not have good stuff, strikes out just 17% of opposing hitters while walking a handful, doesn't induce swinging strikes, doesn't throw many strikes. Everything in the world working against Jonathan Cannon here. His lack of talent, the talent on the other side, so on and so forth. I guess the conditions in this game may be slightly on his side, but we're not going to sweat that. Jose Ramirez, I wanted to make him the home run pick of the day, but I tend not to take the very best player on a team. I tend not to take the superstars. Here and there I will. I'll use Jose Ramirez in spots this season, but I didn't want to take him today when he's like super obvious. Anybody who goes to the Guardians is going to use him. Anybody who needs an expensive one-off is going to use him if they're not going to Coors Field. 281, 400, 719 to start the season with a 438 ISO, 4 home runs on the board, a 204 WRC+, doing Jose Ramirez things. Stephen Kwan, 300, 378, 400 to start the season. Speaking of, doing Stephen Kwan things. He's got a home run on the board, too. I talked about his odd little power outburst last year. He got up to 14 home runs, 12 stolen bases. If he's going to continue to hit 10, even 10 plus is an asset for him. But if he can get his way into the mid-teens, if he can hit 15 home runs with his hit tool, his ability to provide correlated scoring from the leadoff spot, that is excellent. Love the price, $4,900, $3,100. I think he's very, very easy to use. Carlos Santana at $43.26. You're just talking about an excellent bat-on-ball hitter. Switch hitter with an extremely low strikeout, 17% this year, 16.7 last year, 16.8 the year before. Consistency across the board. 8.5% walk rate right now. I bet you that'll be 10.5, just like it was the last 2 years when it's all said and done. Still can hit the ball hard. Still can deliver home runs. He's got 2 on the board already this season with a 190 ISO. He hit 23 last year with a 182. Created runs 14% better than average. And for some reason, against a high-contact pitcher like Jonathan Cannon, he's checking in at just 4,300, just 2,600. I am a buyer. That is a good purchase. The only problem on DraftKings is that blocks you, or the other way around, Kyle Manzardo blocks you from Carlos Santana. So you do have positional conflict there. A lot less of an issue on FanDuel unless you also needed to play Jhonkensy Noel at first base. He's at least got outfield eligibility. If they had us with 3 first basemen, it would get really ugly. So a little bit of a downgrade there in that you can't play Santana and Manzardo in the same lineup on DraftKings. But you still got Nolan Jones. You've still got Jhonkensy Noel. You've got a playable power hitting catcher in Bo Naylor. Bo Naylor's not really good at very much when it comes to hitting, But he does have a little bit of power. He's got a home run on the board this season. He's got a 5.59 in the home run model. Last season, 7.5% barrels, 37% hard hits. Again, mediocre, high strikeout. But for a cheap catcher to pick off a home run with the lefty against a high contact righty, I do think there's upside for Bo Naylor. So you can work around that positional conflict on DK. It's not as problematic as it could be. As mentioned, Jonkinsi Noel, the home run pick of the day at 8.75. Hasn't gotten one yet. Hasn't done much of anything with the bat just yet. 24 plate appearances of meh and a 94% worse than average creating runs so far. Today's the day. 13 home runs in 198 plate appearances with a 268 ISO as he burst onto the scene late last year. Yeah, kid can hit home runs. 3,300, 2,500 first base and outfield eligibility on FanDuel, but obviously we'll want him in the outfield with the 2 first basemen here. 1, 2, 3, 4 is a very strong FanDuel stack. 1, 2, 3, 4 like that is highly functional with maybe higher ceiling. You could also build that same one that way. Quan Ramirez, the top 3 plus Noel. And don't sleep on Nolan Jones right in that mix. If you went like that, not a bad stack either, 3,000 apiece. On DraftKings, obviously, you can stretch and get your 5. Nolan Jones, 115, 281, 192. Looking a lot like last year's Nolan Jones, who went 227, 321, 320 with a .094 ISO, 3 home runs and 5 steals, over 297 plate appearances. Year before, in 424, 2020 season, 245 ISO, 135 WRC plus in 3/4 of a season. There is real talent there. Some of that, yeah, you could argue Coors Field came through, but he was highly regarded before that. And that was just him kind of coming through. Guardians are a smart organization, and they went out and reacquired him when it seemed apparent that Colorado didn't really want him anymore. I like the upside in the long term. 36-24, as long as he's hitting 5th, lefty bat in there, I think you can easily play him in this spot against this pitcher and in a lot of spots with the Guardians. Bottom of the lineup with Daniel Schneemann and Brian Rocchio, mix and match kind of guys. Not really excited about either of them. But 1 through 6, I think, is dynamite. I think you can bolt 7 on in DraftKings lineups. FanDuel, Bo Naylor's a lot less useful, especially if I'm going first base and util right there. So he's more of a complication on FanDuel. He's a mix-in part. If you're building 30 Guardians lineups, you should have him a few times. White Sox side going up against Gav. So, Gav, first couple starts, pretty weak. 2 earned runs in both of them. 5 innings, 2 earned runs on 4 hits to the Royals. Struck out just 2, walked 1. Second start was against the Angels. Just went 3 innings, gave up 4 runs, only 2 of them earned on 5 hits. Struck out 5, but walked 3 in just the 3 innings. Walked 3 out of his 18 hitters that he faced. He also gave up a home run there. The kid is a very high-end prospect. He was one of the top prospects overall in baseball, hitters and pitchers. One of the top pitching prospects in baseball as recently as the beginning of last year. There is definitely talent here. 16 starts last year. He's been injury-racked over these last 2 seasons. But if you put those together, that's 32 starts at the major league level with a 23% strikeout rate, about a 10% walk rate, about a 4-run xFIP, high whip, 11-ish% swinging strike rate, but not enough on the CSW. Not terrible for home runs, 2-ish home run rate. Decent at missing barrels while allowing a fair amount of hard hits and exit velo the last year, but not the year before. Stuff plus, you can see last year didn't really grade out all that well in those 16 starts as he was kind of ramping back up. This year so far, including through spring, he was measuring out multiple pitches with significantly above average stuff. And that has held in these first 2 starts. So even with some shaky results, going up against the White Sox lineup without Lou Bob in it, that is checked down under 3 runs, Gav is probably your best pitching option today as far as what that ceiling really looks like. There's no safety in it. We don't know that we're getting there. The White Sox have ruined a couple good spots already in the first 2 weeks. But from here, especially at price, there's no daylight between these projections. No daylight between those projections, really. So, especially on FanDuel, I'll take the price. He's going to be popular for it. On DraftKings at 82, you do have Bailey Ober there at 77, but he's facing a much better Royals team. I like the Gavin Williams option, even if he's popular. Think we could pick up a nice strikeout day. If you're looking at the White Sox, you probably shouldn't be. It's a 5-game slate. They will be contrarian, especially if Gav gets overly popular. You could grab a few of these guys. It's probably better as like a 3-man secondary stack to differentiate. My biggest issue with it is like one of the guys I would want, and that is Michael A. Taylor, who's hitting 8th, which isn't ideal. He's just cheap. He's got that oddball power and can steal a base for you here and there. He's not good or consistent, but at least he hits the ball hard. Last year, 11.6% barrels, 40.1% hard hits. Year before, 13.5% barrels. It resulted in just 5 home runs for us last year as we were chasing him a little bit. Year before, we got 21 low-owned home runs and 13 low-owned stolen bases over just 388 plate appearances out of him, which was why he was on our radar as kind of a sleeper guy. He's always down lineup. This is usually where you do find him. It's just, one of the most desirable guys in the lineup is not who you want to have hitting. You don't want to have to go to the 8 spot to get that guy as you're building that stack out. Andrew Vaughn is probably the actual most desirable player in this version of this lineup. 3,500, 2,600. He's got 1 home run on the board, slashing 139, 225, 278 over the first 40 plate appearances this year. Last year, he had 19 home runs in 619 plate appearances, 21 the year before. That's about who he is. He's a moderate power bat. He's not an ideal first baseman. A lot of other teams, he'd probably be a backup. Miguel Vargas is all right, 3,300, 2,500. Hasn't done anything yet this season. Last year, 5 home runs, 3 stolen bases in 237 plate appearances, and obviously that got him a job with the White Sox. 7 home runs, 3 stolen bases, and a 195, 305, 367 over 304 2 years ago. So not a lot there. Obviously, he's your 3-hitter. Nick Maton, 24-21. Two oddball home runs on the board this year. It's about all you can cling to there. 8 home runs in 293 back in 2023, 67 WRC plus, a 133 ISO overall. These guys are the reason that this team is at a sub-3 implied total, even against a unproven starter. Matt Dace with a little bit of lefty power upside maybe to pick off as a cheap catcher. At least you're getting a cleanup hitting catcher for 27 if you're fishing around for just cheap options that wield the tools of ignorance. So maybe you go that route, but not a very good bet. Austin Slater, Lennon Sosa, Brooks Baldwin. There is not much to see here. Jacob Maya in the last spot. Baldwin's got a home run on the board. He'd be another guy that would be among my first 3 clicks from this lineup probably. And he's also hitting way down lineup. 121 plate appearances of meh last year. 58 WRC plus, 2 home runs, 4 steals. But at least a somewhat decently regarded prospect. Oh, let me keep an eye on lineups. Baldwin in the minors in 24, 8 home runs, 17 steals, 324, 391, 460 in across AA and AAA. Most of that at AA. Year before that, high A and A ball, 15 home runs, 22 steals. We might just be a little bit early in the, well, he's 24 and a half. So he's not early. He's just not good. But he's on the White Sox, so that equals a high-end prospect. Very, very skippable White Sox team. This very much goes Gavin Williams, Guardians, Bats kind of tied up at the top. I think both of those are very, very good. And then really nothing from the White Sox. But Bats over Jonathan Cannon if you need to for some ungodly reason. Twins, Royals, Michael Wacha, Bailey Ober. Ober, problematic in his first start. I think I mentioned to you guys that he got dropped in that league where Lou, Mike Brown, and I share a team, and we were going to pick him up because we had the top waiver priority. Remiss to report that I screwed up that waiver claim. I didn't realize that we had 2 that were on different days, and we got Joe Adell accidentally, who was supposed to be our it would be fun to add Joe Adell and put him on our bench and never play him. Oops. Ober's next start went just 4, faced 17 hitters, gave up 1 earned run on a solo homer, struck out 5, walked 2. Not a great start, not a deep outing, which is concerning. The first start was against St. Louis. He went 2 2/3. He faced 19 hitters. He gave up 8 earned runs, 3 strikeouts, 3 walks, 2 home runs allowed. That was a disaster. Ober typically does that in his first start. It's just happenstance that that's when it comes, but it has happened a number of times. I like his upside to grow into his regular performance as the season goes on. 26.9% strikeouts last year, a 3.98 ERA, a 3.83 xFIP. But you can see there's a lot of just mediocrity here. Ober is a talented pitcher, but he's like a C+, especially if he's pitching up in your rotation. The strikeouts are fine, especially the strikeout to walk is particularly pretty good. The whip is good. The ability to induce swinging strikes was good last year, was good the year before. The stuff, not great. Several points below average. 3.81% home run rate exactly each of the last 2 years. That comes on not a lot of hard hits, not a lot of exit velo, but a lot of fly balls that do get out against him. Some of that is, of course, happenstance, but he can run into trouble. He can give up the key home run once he after putting a couple guys on base. So things can get pear-shaped really quickly with Bailey Ober. And going up against a very effective bat-on-ball, low strikeout Royals lineup, it is not an ideal spot. But he projects out just fine, especially for this slate. He's, the top guy? Yeah, top projected pitcher with no difference between these 3 guys up at the top. A little bit of offset to Zach Littell, Chris Bassett, and Michael Wacha on the other side of this game. So he's, at worst, very, very playable in this spot for these prices. 77 is downright cheap for just the name on the back of the jersey on DraftKings. Wacha, just a 17.1% strikeout rate with 12.2% walks over his first 2 outings, just lasted 9 2/3 in those 2 starts. That amounted to 5 2/3 in his last one. Gave up 4 earned runs on 6 hits to the Orioles, struck out 5, walked 1. It's not a terrible start. That's a very good Orioles team. It's not what you want if you're the Royals, but that's not a meltdown DFS-wise. 2 strikeouts, 4 walks, 1 earned run on 4 hits allowed to 18 Guardians in his first outing, went just 4, but obviously got stretched out for an additional 5 hitters, 5 2/3 innings in the next start, went a little bit better. So I think we're dealing with an opportunity to pitch 6. There are strikeouts in this Twins lineup. He's not ideal at finding them. 21.2% strikeouts over 166 2/3 last year, 22.4 the year before with a 10-ish% swinging strike rate. Another guy who lacks great stuff, but can eat some innings, can pitch clean innings, an experienced MLB pitcher who is proven at this level. 7,000, There's nothing wrong with him at these prices. If you had to pick between these 2 guys, while I lean slightly Twins bats, I think, I also would probably slightly lean Michael Wacha just because he's facing what I consider to be the worst slightly of these 2 lineups and the one with more strikeouts in it. Which is weird to say when he's offset by like 5 points. Maybe that's just a more like, real baseball who is in the better spot. For DFS, we want to probably just ride with the projections and take Bailey over. Or take neither of them. Twins bats, Matt Wallner came through with the home run that I didn't end up picking. I picked him as the pick from the Twins, I think, but I mentioned yesterday I wanted to make him the main pick, and I ended up going with a very chalky Caminero, which I didn't realize how popular he was going to be. But Wallner got his first on the board, 237 ISO, 165 WRC+. Talked about it yesterday and multiple times already. He mashes the ball when he makes contact. Also can draw some walks. There are going to be strikeouts. There are going to be days of zeros. But he's hitting at the top of the lineup because he can get on base. He is like a Kyle Schwarber model type hitter. So definite enthusiasm about him as the only guy over the magic number in the Twins lineup. Could come right back and get another one today. Willie Castro, reasonable option in the 2 spot following him up. He's got a little bit of power, mid-teens type power, mid-teens 20 type stolen base upside. Cheap and multi-position on both sides. Really all you need to know about Willie Castro. Carlos Correa for just 4,200 on DraftKings is a bargain. Guy hits the ball extremely hard when he makes contact. He makes frequent contact. Ignore the 47 plate appearances this season. He'll get there. 7.32 in the home run model is the second highest on the Twins today. Pretty sure I made him the home run pick from the Twins for this afternoon. 3,200 on FanDuel. Very, very playable shortstop. Again, going up against Michael Wacha, this is not a threatening pitcher on the other side. There's plenty of contact available for these Twins. Trevor Larnach, 35-27. No homers, 1 steal, but does have power upside from the left side of the plate. 10.1% barrels, 45.1% hard hits last year. Very affordable outfielder to bolt on. Ty France, I'm not a big fan of. You need line drives from Ty France to really drop in. He's at 256, 304, 395 over 46 plate appearances that don't mean anything. You can play him,
but he's one of the lower priority guys in the top, or the lowest priority guy in the top 7 in this lineup. Ryan Jeffers, very playable catcher with power upside, 4,000 on DraftKings where you need catchers, sure. 2,600 instead of Ty France at first base on FanDuel, sure. I would rather have Ryan Jeffers than Ty France. Edward Julian, good contact ability. The skill is there. The ability to barrel balls and hit the ball very hard is real. He needs to wrangle his whiffs, his strikeouts, his plate discipline, basically everything else. But if he manages to connect, he can drive the ball. 16.7% barrels, 44.4% hard hits in what is probably like 6 batted ball events over 27 plate appearances. But last year, 9.8% barrels, 13.1% the year before that. So there is true premium contact there. Jose Miranda, Harrison Bader are just kind of mix and match pieces. If you're going to the Royals, which I definitely think you can do against Ober here, we've got some upside bats. We've got our Jonathan India table setter up at the top of the lineup with a little bit of upside for mid-teens type power, mid-teens type speed, maybe 20-plus stolen bases. But he is here to get to first base and set the table for Bobby Witt, for Vinny Pasquantino, for Sal Perez, who's at a 9.83 in today's home run model. Sal at just 196, 245, 304. Not an ideal start to the season, but we're really just here for the premium contact and power with Sal. 12.5% barrels, 40% hard hits so far in a tiny sample. Everything's right in line as far as that goes. Everything over here will come around or not. I really mostly care about the home runs, the power from Sal. Pasquantino is an excellent hitter in terms of the hit tool, the ability to put bat on ball with low strikeout rate, low walk rate. We talked about the barrels being up slightly. It's come down by like 1.5 points just since yesterday. That's how wonky these early season numbers are, especially when we're talking about StatCast stuff that's based on batted ball events. Very, very few so far. But Pasquantino's driven the ball very effectively from the 3 spot the last couple of seasons. Picks up tons of RBI opportunities to pad his fantasy scoring. Love the option. 58-43 for Bobby Witt Jr. Absolutely. 30-30 plus last season. Definitely a superstar. One of the best players on this slate, full stop. Kevin Biggio, Michael Garcia, MJ Melendez, Freddie Fermin in the lineup today, and Drew Waters going down the lineup. There are hitters I like better than others in that group. I think you guys know by now that I'm talking about Michael Garcia and MJ Melendez in that. Kevin Biggio I really don't think very much of. He's the dead min price with 4 positions on FanDuel. I almost said 5. I thought it was 5. Second base, outfield, first base, third base for the dead min price. Hitting 5th, lefty bat against a good but gettable pitcher. At worst, Kevin Biggio makes things work. You know, if you just do what I just did there, that becomes a $3,100 stack that does include Bobby Witt. So you get Vinny Pasquantino, Sal Perez at their prices, and you average Bobby Witt down to 31, and then you're just paying more for Kevin Biggio, which, fine. It's a workable piece. He's a cog in the machine, 294, 333, 294 to start his season. We've seen him be a total mess at the plate over multiple seasons, though. Garcia is really interesting. 2 home runs on the board, 1 stolen base, 341 on base is one of the keys. If you can keep up anything remotely close to that, 320. Give me 315, I'll take it. We have tons of speed. This is a 50 stolen base guy if he's on base that much. Just last year, it was 37 with a 281 on base over 626 plate appearances. The power really, truly might develop. 9.7% barrels, 58.1% hard hits in a nothing sample. We had no barrels out of this kid over the last 2 seasons, but we did have hard hits. We did have good premium contact upside, and we have high frequency of contact. Just 16.5% strikeouts, 6.7% walks. So there's a lot of contact there for a potentially growing hitter. 4,600 at third base or in the outfield on DraftKings. They've raised the price kind of aggressively for what is a good start over just 41 plate appearances. FanDuel is not. Second base and third base eligible over there. Love them at second base for 2,800. That's an interesting option, especially since you can stick India in the outfield. I like that. MJ is just a true lefty power bat. We're just looking for him to make some contact. He's always made pretty good premium contact, 11.4% barrels, nearly 50% hard hits 2 years ago. Lost some barrels last year, but still 45% hard hits. It's just you get a lot of swing and miss with MJ as well. You don't get any kind of consistency. 206, 273, 400 last year, 15% worse than average creating runs. Did hit 17 home runs and had a 194 ISO, though. Freddie Fermin is an interesting hitter as a catcher. 13 plate appearances has not been so far this year, but he's only 2,100. Last year over 368, he went 271, 319, 366. He doesn't have much power, but he's like like a Keibert Ruiz in terms of the ability to put bat on ball. and deliver via the hit tool. Kiebert's got more power than Freddie does, but he's got similar ability to put bat on ball. 17.9% strikeouts, 6.3% walks while hitting 270 last year. For 21, that's on the board for a catcher. You just need a couple base hits to pay that off. So I don't really sweat the lack of power. I think he's at worst kind of interesting as like a wraparound piece. Drew Waters at the Deadmen. First plate appearances of this season, it looks like. Last year, 19 plate appearances that weren't relevant at all. 2 years ago, 337. He hit 8 home runs. He stole 16 bases. That's a moderately productive 9-hitter for the Minden price down there. Doesn't look like he's on the DraftKings slate. Since he's the highest projected pitcher, I will give it to Bailey Ober, but it's very, very close in a four corners game here, in my opinion. I would go Ober, Royals, Twins, Waka as a ranking, but I would use any one of those 4 pieces against any one of the other 4 pieces. Can't skip the Coors Field game, much as I might want to. Rockies lineup is in. Brewers lineup is not. Red Sox lineup's also in. All right, so we're flat fading pitching in this game, guys. I don't think you go to Quinn Priester in his first major league start of this season. I talked about him already. You can see the numbers in his major league samples. 49 and 2/3 last year. He struck out just 14.9% while pitching to a 4.71 ERA. The 4.11 xFIP underneath that ERA is nice to see. The 10.4% swinging strike rate is at least respectable and indicative of what his upside looks like. But he's got a ways to go before he's a competent major league pitcher, and he's probably got even longer to go before we're doing anything like trusting him at Coors Field. In the minors, 2024 in Pittsburgh, 26.3% strikeouts, 6.4% walks. In 2024 with Boston, 25.9% strikeouts in a small sample after the trade. 25.3% strikeouts the year before in 2023 in a full season in Pittsburgh AAA system. 25% the year before. So that's the expectation, is that he can develop into that kind of a pitcher. If I'm remembering correctly, he's fastball change primarily. Don't quote me on that. Was decent during the spring. 4 strikeouts in each of his last 2 appearances. 2 2/3 innings. Faced 17 and 12 hitters in those 2 games. Gave up some runs and some contact, but it's more about getting stretched out and finding those strikeouts. In his minor league appearance, which was, well, still with Boston before this trade, he faced Miami's AAA affiliate. Went 4 innings, faced 19 hitters, gave up 2 earned, struck out 6 in that game. It's the best we can do for information, but he's pitching at Coors Field in his first major league start in a minute. I don't like the upside there. And then Ryan Feltner's just not on the board at all. Last year, 19.9% Ks over 162 and a third, a 4.49 ERA, a 4.17 xFIP. He's very, very gettable. Every now and then you can pick off a Ryan Feltner start, but I don't think we're fishing for it here at 6,000. Don't think we're fishing for it on FanDuel by any means. Between the two, I do think there's more upside on Priester, even in the shaky spot. Just given the strikeout pedigree and the fact that there are more strikeouts from a weaker lineup here. Zach Veen hitting second today. That's interesting. 3,2,700 for Veen. Hasn't done anything in his 8 plate appearances, but we looked at the numbers. There is definitely prospect pedigree and some interesting DFS skill set there. 6.06 in the home run model with the improved spot in the lineup. That's interesting. Only 3,000 in a Coors Field game. Only 333 for Kyle Farmer. 44 for Ryan McMahon. This is an ugly version of the Rockies lineup. Holy hell. No Hunter Goodman. That doesn't really do much to bump Quinn Priester for me, but it does take away a little bit of my interest in this Rockies lineup. I think Kyle Farmer's okay, but Kyle Farmer's more okay when you get him down here in a game that's not at Coors Field as a sneaky, cheap option with multi-position. Hitting third in an obvious spot at Coors Field for 33, for 26 over here with 3 positions, I feel like he's going to get really popular. We talked about Farmer a bunch last year, and he's another guy kind of like Michael A. Didn't really come through for us like he had the year before. These 11 home runs that I'm talking about, they're 369, 253, 314, 405. Decent run creator that season, and then 14 home runs the year before as a decent run as a poor run creator, but a decent sneaky power bat from the bottom of at the time the Twins lineup. That was when he was interesting. I feel like he's just going to get popular, and he's not that good in this spot. Doyle's interesting up top, 51.39. Fully priced. He's the only fully priced player in this lineup for reasons. 2 home runs, 1 stolen base out of him so far this year. He is very, very good. Ryan McMahon against a weak righty. I'll take my shots. 8.41 second on the third on the team in the home run model today for just 44.32. 2 home runs on the board this year. We all know what Ryan McMahon is. I think that's a very cheap price to find him, if nothing else. Nick Martini for 35.27. Saw the weird power outburst at one point. Yeah, 6 home runs in 79 plate appearances back in 23. 319 ISO in that tiny sample. Followed it last year with 5 home runs and a 158 ISO over 163. Kind of exposed over that sample. Coors Field, lefty bat, 3,500, 2,700. If you're going to Rockies, you can easily build him into stacks. But I think at that price, it's another one that's just going to get scooped up by people chasing Coors Field and doing it cheap. Michael Talia, one of the actual talented guys here, 9.96 to lead the team in the home run model today. 41.31 across sites. That is dirt cheap for the power upside from this kid. 17.2% barrels and 50% hard hits last year. He really has struggled with the barrels over his first 46 plate appearances. Don't sweat it. Barrels are his life. That is what he does. 50% hard hits right on the nose from last year's number. Striking out a ton, not drawing any walks so far. That'll come down a little bit in the strikeouts, but it'll come down to high 30s. It'll go up into the double digits in the walk rate, and that'll save him as far as WRC+. But the key with Talia is the power. 25 home runs in 458 plate appearances last year. 238 ISO. He's a monster power bat for those prices against a super gettable pitcher at Coors Field. He's going to be popular too. Tyler Freeman, Mickey Moniak, Jacob Stallings. Most interesting player in that group is definitely Mickey Moniak, former first overall pick. Traded finally from the Angels to Coors Field, where he might suddenly burst on the scene. He's had flashes. 14 home runs over 418 plate appearances last year with just a 79 WRC plus. 14 over 323 while slashing 283.07, 495 with a 215 ISO and a 114 WRC plus 2 years ago, though. We thought that was the breakout. If he starts doing something like this at Coors Field, you're going to get a really buzzy Mickey Moniak over the next month if that happens. Right now, he's just kind of interesting, hiding down the bottom of the lineup. Him, I wouldn't expect to get nearly as popular as the other guys high up the lineup, which would make him kind of a priority for me. Freeman, a little bit of a hit tool for cheap, and Jacob Stallings, a little minor catcher pop for cheap from the bottom of the lineup. On the Brewers side, Bryce Turang. Love the option at 56.35, but he's very expensive. 3 home runs, 2 steals to start the season, a 146 WRC plus, getting on base like crazy ahead of Jackson Churio, who has 4 home runs on the board, 370 ISO, hit one yesterday, was very involved yesterday. He's created runs 69% better than average. Christian Yelich, don't look now, but he's up to 3 home runs, 3 stolen bases. Everything else about the slash line has been weak, but we want Christian Yelich hitting the ball hard. Everything else will come around, kind of as a product of hitting the ball hard. He's always been good at that. 9.3% barrels, 49.9% hard hits 2 years ago. Dipped a little for barrels last year, but these are still good numbers. The hard hit is very good, and I like him to go back to this kind of level. He's done that so far this year. Always been low strikeout, high walk. A lot of quality there still with Christian Yelich. He's just expensive because it's the Brewers at Coors Field. William Contreras at 52.37 is probably your best raw, in the raw sense, the best catcher option on the board because you get one of the best hitting catchers in baseball at Coors Field. But you're paying through the nose to do it. Sal Frelick at 42.3000, very playable. Big ballpark, can help the ball carry and drop in, and he could use his speed to turn that into a triple pretty easily. I don't mind Sal. He functions very well in this park. 356, 431, 422 to start the year. He's created runs 47% better than average in a tiny sample. He has been involved. Rhys Hoskins, you're just looking to pick off a cheap home run. Hasn't done it yet this season, but a 7.83 in the home run model. Premium contact has not been there yet to barrel a ball this season, but at least he's got 45.5% hard hits in the tiny sample. Garrett Mitchell was the home run pick from the Brewers today because why not? I like the lefty. 5.74 in the home run model today. Not leading the team, but a respectable enough number for 39-31. And we need to get to some cheap bats if we're stacking Brewers. So he makes a ton of sense. Oliver Dunn and Joey Ortiz, mix and match type pieces, but Ortiz is kind of interesting from a wraparound perspective. 4,000 at shortstop. Not ideal positioning, but at least a cheap enough price to help make things work from the top of the lineup on DraftKings if you're stacking them. 3 positions for 3,000 on FanDuel. Definitely effective. This is a player who last year hit 11 home runs, stole 11 bases with 329 on base, created runs 4% better than average. So there's some talent there. If you're getting just on base ahead of Turang, Churio, Yelich, Contreras a few times, there's value there. Did this just drop? No, it did not. Brewers bats, Rockies bats, but it's probably closer than most people think. And well, I shouldn't say the Rockies will be a little sneaky because that is a super cheap lineup. You're just 1 through 5, 5-man now averages 3,800 at Coors Field against Quentin Priester. Yikes. Of course, we wouldn't want Nick Martini, so if we did that, Doyle, Veen, Farmer, Doyle, Veen, Farmer, McMahon, and Talia on DraftKings, 3,900 apiece. These guys have nearly a 5-run total against a wildly unproven pitcher. I suspect the field is aware of this. But yeah, Rockies look pretty good, and they're very, very close to the Brewers. Last game up. Mickey, show me the Maniac. I like it, Cubs. I don't think there's any rain to worry about, Trev. Travis Duarte asking if there's rain in the White Sox game. That was the let me just pull it up. Let me just pull up Mr. Roth and see what he's saying. Yeah, that was the one, as mentioned, that Roth had as green-yellow. He says, and I quote, rain around pregame, but 99% of the rain should be gone by first pitch. I expect they play 9 innings without issue, maybe through a few raindrops. So it's drizzling in the area, but there seems to be no threat whatsoever to the game. Everything else is green. Also mentioned, it is 80 degrees in Tampa today. So big time potential upside for that Tampa ballpark to play up offense. We're waiting for it to get obnoxiously hot in Florida, but that's one of the warmer days we've had so far down there. The ball is going to fly once it warms up. If you haven't been here, that Steinbrenner Field, same dimensions as Yankee Stadium. Target lefty bats hitting home runs in that into that right field porch. Blue Jays, Red Sox, Chris Bassett, Walker Buehler, or the remnants of Walker Buehler. Hasn't been pretty in his first 2 Red Sox outings. 5 innings, 5 earned runs, 2 home runs allowed, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts to the Cardinals in his most recent game, 4 1/3, 4 earned runs on 7 hits, 1 home run allowed, 3 strikeouts, no walks in his first game against Texas. Similar kind of opponent to those 2 teams, I would say, with some quality up top and then like a thinning lineup as it goes down the list, with some superstar talent, with some true home run hitters. Not a great spot for Walker Buehler. It's also a very low strikeout team. That's their attribute that's actually better than either St. Louis or Texas. So when we're already not getting Ks from Buehler, throwing them up against the Blue Jays, don't love it. I think we can easily skip Walker Buehler at 75, 78. Doesn't really project all that well. Chris Bassett, though, we at least have to consider. At least on DraftKings for 8,000. 10,000 on FanDuel, I feel like is going to be probably pretty offset as far as ownership goes. It's very difficult to take him at 10K and then make high-end stacks work. What you get out of Bassett most of the time is depth. 6 2/3, faced 24 hitters in his most recent start, was against the Mets. 4 hits, no runs, 9 strikeouts, no walks. 7 strikeouts, 2 walks, an earned run on 8 hits over 6 against the Orioles in his first start, but that's a pretty downright effective start as well. So far, 31.4% strikeouts. Dead on average for Stuff Plus. He's given up hard hits. He's given up exit velo. He's given up a ton of barrels on a 13-degree average launch so far. No home runs. This is extreme happenstance that he has not allowed a home run with those numbers. That will change in an awful hurry. Last year, much more moderate talent. 4.16 ERA, 4.28 xFIP, allowed a 2.37% home run rate with much better contact numbers against. Just 22.2% strikeouts against 9.2% walks, though, is the thing to highlight. 8.7% swinging strike rate. He has made a little bit of an improvement in Stuff Plus just to get it back to the average in the small sample. Maybe that's what's resulted in the additional swinging strikes that he's picked up. You're picking up 2.5 points of swinging strike rate there. That doesn't fully account for the uptick in strikeout rate. I would suspect this comes back down, but maybe we get a version of Chris Bassett that's pitching in the 24-25% range instead of the 22% we've put up over the last 2 seasons. But you can see the innings. 233 2 years ago. 171 is a little bit light, actually, workload-wise for him in 31 starts. Forget why that was. But typically you're getting a very good innings eater. Did he just come out of a few random starts early? Yes, I am taking the time to look at Chris Bassett's innings pitched from last year. 24. How many 6+ starts did we get? 6, 2, 3. Yeah, so in 14 of his 31 starts, he pitched through the 6th inning or beyond. He didn't throw a complete game. He furthest he got was eight innings. But it's not that the depth wasn't there. It's that in some of the games where he was scuffling more, and then some down the stretch in September, he just kind of came out earlier than you would expect. Like August 11th against the A's, a 4-inning start, gave up 7 earned runs. So he had a few more of those clunkers overall, but I don't think it was a natural thing where the innings were down. Or maybe that's the wrong way to say it. I think maybe it was a natural thing. It wasn't a planned organizational thing to have the innings down. So I think you can still easily expect 6+ if all is going well for Chris Bassitt, which is kind of what you probably need against this Red Sox team. 8.01 in the home run model for Rafi Devers today. I made him the home run pick of the day from the Red Sox. Why not? Tristan Casas, love the power upside for him. 6.86 in the home run model. And again, if these guys are going to tee up against anything that looks like that, you're going to get your first home run against Chris Bassitt today in Fenway Park. More likely, Bassitt ultimately does look like this, like the guy who's moderately good at limiting premium contact, limiting power output. But we'll see. He's also just a fly ball pitcher, and these are very good home run bats. Jarren Duran off the top for 54-38. Kind of a weak start to his season, but he was excellent leading off last year. We give him a little bit of time. I like him to go right back to where he was. So far this season, we have gotten 11.6% barrels and 51.2% hard hits if we need something to hang on to. Love the option for Jarren Duran, and if he gets a little unpopular, great. Devers, with the slow start included, is now at 265, 373, 429, and by slow start, I mean those first 25 plate appearances. He's up to a 19.4% barrel rate and a 71% hard hit rate. I think any concerns about Rafi Devers have washed away over the last week. Alex Bregman, 5,000, 3,300, good start for his Boston career with a pair of home runs. You get second and third base eligibility still on DK, which is nice. 5,000 over there, either spot, but if you can get him at second base, that's a dynamite bat. Casas, 34, is just crazy cheap. Was it 37 yesterday when I was ranting and raving about how cheap Tristan Casas was? It's 34 today. 28 on FanDuel. He's got a home run on the board this year, just a 116 ISO, just a 30 WRC plus. 13 home runs in just 243 plate appearances last year with a 222 ISO. 24 home runs in 502 the year before with good triple slash numbers too. He is a good hitter on top of being a good power bat. 13.8% barrels. That's all. The barrels are right where they're supposed to be in the tiny sample of batted ball events. There's nothing wrong with Tristan Casas. Just keep taking him until he delivers. And then beyond that, but while he's this cheap, he is a absolute priority in this lineup. Trevor Story, Kristen Campbell, 41, 4,000. Either one of those guys in your middle infield, both of those guys to fill out your middle infield. That said, I probably on DK, if I can afford it, would rather have Bregman at second base. Even with Kristen Campbell being quite good to start his major league career and by all accounts should continue to hit like this. Maybe not quite like that, but very well. I still would lean Bregman, but if you need the $1,000 in savings, that is a fantastic alternative at second base. 341, 445, 85 starting his career with the Red Sox, broke camp with the team as one of their top prospects. Story, veteran bat that I continue to believe in. 2 homers, 2 steals. You get production out of Trevor Story if he's healthy. I promise you. It's going to happen. Just got to deliver on the healthy part. Willie Abreu, tons of barrels, tons of bat on ball. Love the option. 15.2% Ks so far this year. Probably doesn't hold. He was 28% this year. But if he actually manages to cut that down even, let's say, by a third, that's major, major upside for this bat. 3 home runs already this season. 378, 500, 703 with a 234 WRC plus. Willie Abreu is a priority in this lineup. Sit down Rafael, Carlos Narvaez, a lot less so. Rafael is the guy that you want down there outside of the catcher positioning. He at least has the skill set for DFS when it comes to counting stats. Last season, stole 19, hit 15 home runs, but was only at a 79 WRC plus. A lot of flaws in there, but for our purposes, especially where he fills 3 spots on FanDuel for cheap, that's a playable piece. The lower end of the 2 lineups, in my opinion, is definitely the... Brewers is in. Turang, Churio, Yelich, Contreras. Garrett Mitchell moves up to 5, which is plus for him. Jake Bauer's in the lineup. They get the lefty bat in there instead of Rhys Hoskins. That's a 1-for-1 kind of swap for power. Joey Ortiz, Oliver Dunn, and then Eric Haas. A little bit of power upside as a cheap catcher, hitting in the 9 spot for the Brewers. So rounding things out, Buehler we're not playing. We can definitely target him with some Blue Jays bats. But as we've discussed, it's a very top-heavy lineup. George Springer's off to a good start. Hopefully that continues and it stretches this out to a full 5-man that you can use. Even within that, though, I don't really believe that much in Andres Jimenez. Had a great prospect pedigree once upon a time. He's been okay, but he's not a cleanup hitter. 252, 298, 340 last year with an 83 WRC plus, 9 homers, 30 steals. 15 homers, 30 steals the year before with a 314 on base, 147 ISO, 97 WRC plus. He'd be better off hitting third, quite honestly. They should flip these two guys. You put him third, and that's an effective spot in the lineup, and then you get Santander's power. I think they just like the idea of both power bats in a row right after Bichette, but probably be a more constructive lineup, or you move him further down and let Springer hit third. Or clean up. Bichette off the top, just 43.29. Those are great prices. If he's anything like the player he used to be, I'm fully on board for believing that. Last year, struggled over 336, but going back just 2 years ago, 306, 339, 475 with a 125 WRC plus. He hit 20 homers. He's not a top-end power bat, but he's a capable power bat. He's very good at getting on base. He's a key piece in this lineup. They need him to deliver this year. So do we if we're going to them for DFS. 53.34 is not a bad price to find Vladdy Guerrero at a 9.93 in the home run model. Same thing for Santander at 44,000. 9.93 and 9.42 respectively for the two big-time power bats there. Neither one has hit a home run yet this season. They both could come out of this game with a home run on the board. Definitely like the power upside from those two. Springer at 43.33. Is priced back up to Springer-ish kind of prices on FanDuel, a lot less so on DraftKings. More playability for cheap on DraftKings. FanDuel's kind of got these guys at average prices. Alejandro Kirk, Will Wagner, Ernie Clement, Alan Rodin down lineup. Mix and match your way through those guys for just cheap pricing and positioning, but really you want to be living up here. I continue to think the Blue Jays are probably best utilized as a short stack, as your secondary, like your 3-man. But you could get a nice upside day, 4.48 implied total on this board against a shaky version of Walker Buehler. Definitely not nothing. $12.40, gang. That's your slate. Half hour till lock. How about that? Almost as if I planned it. I could sell you the lie that I planned it that way had I not said I'm going to try and get us out by 12:30 at the beginning of the show. 10 minutes behind schedule, but who cares? One last look at the pitching board. Bailey Ober up top, but it's very, very close between those three options. There is no safety in any one of those guys. I like Gavin Williams against the White Sox if he can find his form, if he can find his stuff. There is an if there, but the White Sox gave him the best possible version of their lineup for him to do that against because there's no Luis Robert in the lineup today. 84.82, great price, tons and tons of strikeout upside. If I don't go to Jose Soriano, with the power showing against from Tampa Bay, with the warm weather, I'm starting to get a little bit shakier on that. I might just eat some chalk and go with Gavin Williams against the White Sox on FanDuel in the one lineup that I've got in. Ober is a perfectly fine option, but the Royals are good at limiting strikeouts. That is a good, effective offense with hit tool, with ability to get on base, with a little bit of power. So could be another shaky one for Bailey Ober, but the projections are on his side. Soriano, I mentioned, definite strikeout upside, high danger spot. But if his ability to keep the ball down does come through, that can cut through the weather a little bit for us and help him get to clean innings. 93.88, good price to find out. Zach Littell, definite strikeout upside on his side. I just don't love the FanDuel price at 96. 85, a lot more reasonable on DK. Bassett is similar. 10,000 seems aggressive on FanDuel against the Red Sox. He's pitched well out of the gate. You get innings there. One of your better shots at a quality start on FanDuel over 6, which is probably why he's the most expensive, just on the innings. If we figure everybody's giving up 3 or 4 runs, then you just kind of take the innings. But projects out at 25 and offset from the other guys kind of for a reason. 8,000 on DK, more playability there. Waka, just for a cheap price, 7,000. He does make things work on DraftKings. I think you're better off going to Waka as your SP2 with these guys, and that'll probably make Waka pretty popular. Probably better off going there than with any of those guys. I have no regard for Feltner. I don't think Buehler's there. Cannon against Cleveland is kind of a no. Canathan. And then Priester is the wild card. 6,500 is an effective Apple Box price for him, but it's Coors Field. You need the good version of him that we saw in the minor leagues, not the version we've seen over essentially a full season at the major league level where he comes through in 32 starts with a 15-something% strikeout rate and bad numbers. That's 10 points off what he was doing in the minors. Sometimes you see this. Guys with arsenals that work against 18 to 22-year-olds don't work at all when they get to the major league level. I don't know that that's the case, but it's shaky, and Coors Field is not the spot to find out. Kind of like the Rockies' bats there, especially if they get sneaky, even with that weird version of their lineup. Jhonkensy Noel was the home run pick of the day. It's up on the site. Check it out. You're gone. What's going on, buddy? Apologies for conflicting with you today. I saw that you were live when I went up and threw my pop-up show on. You're much better at scheduling these things than I am. I know you've been doing shows at overnight, so I didn't know you were going this morning. Wouldn't have tried to bump into you if I had known. No, dude, no worries. So, I think that's about it, gang. Check out the website, rotoscouts.com. Everything's under $1 a day for all of this. Projections, home run picks, home run model numbers, the actual data that comes out of the home run model, top stacks, NBA projections, NHL projections through the end of the regular season and the playoffs. It's going to kill me. The NBA's really trying. Holding firm, though. So, good luck out there this afternoon, you guys. Somebody go win some. Oh, before we go, one more time. Mr. Logan Grew, yet again, stand up and be recognized. Hell of a week going. It wasn't in baseball this time. Logan took his winnings from baseball and rolled it up in the basketball streets. Looks like he created one entry and put it into an $18 contest on DraftKings, the $60K fadeaway, the $10K fadeaway for $15, the triple threat single entry for another $33, the high five single entry for $5, the high five single entry for presumably another $5, but it gets cut off. He took first place in all of those contests. 3,900 people, 784 people, 44 people, 356, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, Logan, for his what looks like, $8,500 in entry fees, $22,725 win last night. $20K of it coming from the $18 entry into the fadeaway, $20K to first, took down first place. Congrats. We're up to like a $50,000 week for Logan if I am counting it up accurately. Pretty damn good, buddy. Congratulations. Let's put somebody else at the top of the board in the baseball streets. Got a great slate to do it with. Good luck out there. Go win something. Share a screenshot when you do. And we will be back for more of this tomorrow. Later, gang.